I am so thrilled and honored, as I shared with you earlier this morning, that we have some extraordinary public servants with us today. And what's so amazing about the women that you're about to meet is not just their incredible leadership, but really their commitment to service. And these are all women who have dedicated their lives to trying to uplift others. We're so lucky that Tish James could be with us this morning, and we're going to let her make some remarks because she has to slip out. It's a rather busy time for her and everyone leading up to November 6th. And if you don't know Tish James, you should. Tish James is the public advocate for the city of New York, an office which we were just talking about, maybe in the past hasn't been one that most New Yorkers have been so in touch with. But I think under Tish's leadership, many New Yorkers have come to appreciate the power of having someone in this role of advocate to speak for them, particularly from underserved communities, around housing, around social justice, around a whole range of issues that affect everyday New Yorkers. It's a very special and unique role. It's so special and unique that since Tish won the primary to be the next New York State Attorney General, the latest count is about 17 people have stepped forward to say they are going to run for her seat when she vacates it if she is elected in November. It's easy to think in New York that once somebody gets through a primary that the politics is over. It is not so. Tish has not won yet. She has a tough race ahead of her over the next few weeks. She does have a Republican challenger who were just saying, I don't know why it is that every time women run for office, somebody manages to dig up like the least attractive picture that none of us would ever want somebody to see, blows it up and puts it in a commercial. So that is part of what women deal with when they run for office. But we know. So, wherever you land on the political spectrum, it is always, I find it so inspiring to hear from women like Tish. She had lots of choices. She has extraordinary degrees and achievements. Academically, she could have done anything with her career, as you will see from her resume or bio that's in your book. But she chose to come and serve New York. And we need more women like Tish. We need more of us in this room to step forward and commit some part of our lives to making a difference and making the country better. And so with that, I'd like to welcome up my friend and amazing leader, Tish James.
So I don't mind the negative television ads. I just say, show the pretty face. That's it. Thank you very much. I told my opponent, I said, you can attack me all you want because that means you have nothing to say. Just, I'm much more attractive than that picture you have. So he laughed. When they go low, you go high, right? Yeah. Hello, Senator. Senator Andrea Stewart-Cousins just graced us. So my name is, first, thank you, Lauren, for inviting me here. And for all those who don't know me, my name is Tish James, but everyone refers to me as Tish. I am the public advocate of the City of New York, which is second to the mayor of the City of New York, which provides checks and balances on the mayor. You preside over the City Council. You serve on a number of commissions and boards. You also serve on the pension board of the City of New York. And so I've been serving in that capacity for the last 5 years. We just recently won re-election last year. And so when this vacancy became available, I was at dinner, and we were all looking at our cell phones rudely instead of talking to one another. And the article popped up about our former Attorney General. And all of us we just was silence in the room. And we read it. And it was like, wow. And then advertisers came. And then we received another email. The governor of the state of New York said the Attorney General should step down because of the allegations. And it was like, wow. And then by the time dessert came, he stepped down. And then my world changed. You see, I was focused on running for mayor of the city of New York. And my phone actually blew up. Within a 20-minute span, I received about 200 calls saying you should consider it. I did not give a definitive answer. I went home, and I wanted to sleep on it and pray on it. I woke up the next day, more calls. I had to turn my phone off. Governor of the state of New York called and said, you should consider it, Tish. And I said, I don't know. Let me think about it. I really wanted to focus on running for mayor. Everyone said, Tish, you got a law career. You've been focused on justice all of your life. You recognize that you've been trained as a civil rights attorney. You were trained at Howard University to transform matters. You've been trained as a social engineer. You need to consider it. At that point, I wanted some coffee. I didn't have coffee, so I went to my corner coffee shop in Clinton Hill, and I met a young woman who was an immigrant who said, Tish, I was charged with a crime. I'm undocumented. I need to know the consequences of accepting a plea. Could you advise me? I don't know what to do in this environment. I advised her, and then she went on along. She gave me a hug, and she went along her way. It was at that time I decided I should run for the office of Attorney General, because we find ourselves in a pivotal moment in the history of this country. We're careening towards chaos and confusion, and immigrants are hiding in the shadow, my friends, afraid of government. And I entered into public service because it transformed my life, and because I don't believe that that young lady who, to me, represented all of the immigrants in this country now who consider government as a foe and not a friend. It was at that point in time I decided to run. Because our work today is more important than it's ever been. We're in perilous times, my friends. Because we have a federal government that is hell-bent on attacking our communities, undermining our rights, and rolling back all of the progress that we've made, trampling on our civil and human rights, and ignoring the rights of individuals who are hiding in the shadow. And the progress that we and our mothers struggled for, that we gave our blood, sweat, and tears for, progress that I've been fighting for all of my entire life, is in jeopardy. And our values as a country, the values that we believe in, are being ignored. These are not normal times. And so everything that you think about government is thrown out the door, from policy by Twitter to actual facts and reasoning and deliberation. It's all thrown out the door. And so these are very troubling times. And so people say, well, Tish is running, it's historical, yeah. Yes, I was the first candidate to win on an independent line. As a city council member, I ran on the working families line only, representing Fort Greene, Clinton Hill, Prospect Heights, Crown Heights, and a little bit of Bedford-Stuyvesant. We made history then, that's good. I was the first woman of color ever elected in the city of New York in 2000 and something. That's good, 2013. And now will be the first woman of color elected statewide. That's all well and fine, but it means nothing. Because the reality is that if you've got the power, the question really is, what do you do with it? And I know so many individuals who have titles and power, and the question for me has always been, what have you done with the power that you have? What have you done with your title? What have you done to transform the life of a child? And so we have advanced in the office of City Council, Public Advocate, an agenda that promotes equality and fairness, and a concept, a basic concept called simple justice for all. Not for some, but for all. And so in the Office of Public Advocate, we passed groundbreaking legislation to ban salary history, because I believe equal pay for equal work should be more than just a rally slogan. We now have universal school lunch for all children, because children came, when I went to visit schools all throughout the city of New York, there were children who live below the poverty level who were given cards to get free lunch, and they were ridiculed, they were bullied, embarrassed, and they would have to stand in separate lines to get lunch. And oftentimes they didn't want to stand in that separate line. They didn't want to show that card. And so I often would ask Department of Education, why do we have 2 lines? The stigma of poverty on these children. And so we devised a plan working with the federal government to get rid of that card, and so that there will only be 1 line, and that the only requirement is that you have hunger pains. And so now children who are poor are no longer ridiculed and no longer bullied. Now, they have called me, it's true, because they've said, Tish, Miss James, can you come back to our school? And I said, why? We're all eating. And they say, yeah, but the food is yucky. That's another issue. So in the Public Advocate's Office, we've handled over 32,000 constituent complaints, individuals who walk through our doors, not with a fancy lawyer or a high-paid lobbyist, but individuals with a cause, oftentimes with their personal life in plastic bags. We've helped fight for paid sick leave and paid family leave. We've investigated and passed legislation to protect nail salon workers from dangerous and unsafe working conditions and make nail salons safer for consumers, focusing on environmental concerns. We've taken legal action with the former attorney generals when a hostile group of anti-abortion activists threatened and harassed women for simply seeking health care in Queens. We've introduced legislation to fight back against non-disclosure agreements, which silence far too many victims of sexual harassment. We've made real progress. We've taken on real issues that impacted New Yorkers. We've turbocharged a worst landlord list, a list of landlords who basically jeopardize the health and the safety of countless number of individuals all throughout the city of New York, primarily because they want to take advantage of the hot real estate market. And as the Attorney General, I'll be able to take this work to the next level. I'll take legal action to protect the woman's right to choose in New York, because we need to codify Roe v. Wade. And given the conservative leaning these days of the United States Supreme Court, it's really critically important that in the state of New York that we harden our system and that we analyze all of our laws to protect New Yorkers against the onslaught of conservative values, which will now be cemented in the law. We will also fight for statewide legislation to ban companies from asking applicants about their salary history. I'll create a wage discrimination task force to determine why wage disparities exist and take enforcement action. I will take companies to court if they discriminate based on an employee's gender, pregnancy, or status as a caregiver. And I will investigate companies with histories of harassment, determine if systematic abuses have occurred, and I will sue them. And that's just the beginning of my women's agenda. But there is so much more that we can do as the Attorney General. I will be on the front lines fighting to protect the environment. You see, as I crisscross the state these days, believe it or not, there are children in Buffalo whose water has been poisoned. And the lead levels rival that of Flint, Michigan. In Newburgh, out of 10 children, at least half of them are living below the poverty level and suffering from hunger. On Long Island, environmental dumping in communities of color, environmental racism. Hudson River, fracking infrastructure, unfortunately, is being traversed along the Hudson River. And the list goes on and on and on. Right here in New York City, public housing, which is disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And so we need to address those issues and more. The opioid crisis. Have you ever held a mother in your arms, or a father, or a brother or sister, crying for a bed for their loved ones because of this opioid crisis? I'm meeting more and more individuals who've lost loved ones from this opioid crisis. And so we've got to take on the pharmaceutical company. I'm so glad that Barbara Underwood has filed a lawsuit against Purdue, but there's more that we can do. Doctors who have conflicts of interest, who are benefiting from this opioid crisis, marketers who are marketing pills, manufacturers of OxyContin who are making zillions of dollars, and people are benefiting from an opioid crisis which is tearing families apart. We can do more in the Office of Attorney General. We can also, I look forward to reforming a criminal justice system, because mental illness should not be a crime, and poverty should not be a crime. And we need to take on the NRA, because the NRA, believe it or not, is registered as a charitable organization. And there's nothing charitable about trafficking in products of death. And so we need to work with attorney generals all across this nation to stop the trafficking of gun violence and to close all of these loopholes and to pass reasonable gun laws in our country. We've got some of the strongest ones here in New York, but we obviously need to go further in our country. And most importantly, I look forward to going after this administration, this federal administration, and this president whose name I will not mention, and will be leading the charge. The truth is, in order to continue this fight, in order to continue moving the needle forward and advancing women, we need more women in office. And I know firsthand that that isn't easy. Throughout my career, I've had to fight twice as hard to be heard in the spirit of Shirley Chisholm, to be taken seriously, and even to raise money, and not so different from the stigma of women in finance face. There are record numbers of women running for office at every level of government this year, and something we should be proud of. In fact, 34,000 women have expressed, across this nation, have expressed interest in running for office, but there's more than individuals can do, because beyond the basic idea that our elected officials should be reflective of the people they represent, there's a fundamental truth that when women are in office, women's rights are advanced. But we can advance women in so many other areas. Not everyone wants to be an elected official. Not everyone wants to have their entire life subject to scrutiny. And so there's a role for you. We need more women in C-suites. We need more women partners. We need more women journalists. We need more women lobbyists. We need more scientists. I need more finance people. I need more women on Wall Street. I need more women in every industry, in law firms. And so individuals always approach me and say, where can I find a woman in this particular industry? And so I need more women to step up to the plate and recognize that there is power in all of these industries, and we are falling further and further behind in terms of our numbers. And it's also important that we need individuals who are members of, heads of NGOs and not-for-profits and CBOs, and that need to support families and children and marginalized groups and immigrants, so that we can bring these marginalized and vulnerable populations out of the shadow and into the light, and to let them know that government is their friend and not their foe. And so we also need to say it loud and say it clear, that regardless of what you look like, who you love, and who you pray to, or where you come from, you have elected officials who will fight for you each and every day. Because I wake up each and every morning with a fire in my belly on how I can improve the life of someone else. And I look forward to serving as the next Attorney General as I wake up each and every day, as I march into the office, as I sue somebody, and as I go home. And so that's why it's so important that I've come here today to speak to each and every one of you. That's why we must continue to be engaged, because these midterm elections are the most consequential elections in recent history. And so I need all of you to come out and vote on November 6th. 19 days, but who's counting? 19 days from today. And I need for you to bring your family members, your neighbors, your partners, your exes, your friend enemies. Bring them all out to vote, because it's so important. You can hate them later, but vote. So, ladies, thank you. The power's in your hands. Let's use it. God bless you and thank you.